License to Kill is sponsored by Sterifab, Swarm Pest Control Marketing, and Pest Patrol. Sterifab delivers clean kills with a single spray. Disinfect and eliminate pests instantly. Swarm Pest Control Marketing is a digital marketing partner, and Swarm Mastermind helps leaders scale with confidence. And a special thanks also to Pest Patrol for supporting our mission to make LTK agents the best in the field.
Hi, I'm Marcus, and welcome to the License to Kill podcast, where pest control professionals meet cutting-edge expertise, industry insights, and a whole lot of camaraderie. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your journey as a PMP, this podcast dives into everything that makes our industry tick. From advanced techniques and groundbreaking products to hilarious field stories and the real talk about the challenges we face in our industry. Join us as we explore the science, art, and community behind pest control, celebrating the people who work tirelessly to keep our world safe, healthy, and pest-free. As always, stay sharp, stay connected, stay legendary. Let's start the show.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us with the License to Kill show. Today we have Christopher Hayes. He's a professor over, an entomologist over at North Carolina State University. Very happy to have him on the show. Going to get a chance to talk a little bit about culture. Going to get a little chance to talk about, what it's like to be published, and just a little bit about his background and how he got into pest control, what inspired him to be into entomology. Really happy to have Chris with us here today. He's actually based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. That is where I was born, right? So shout out for,
Let's
for
go.
North Carolina.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
So when I saw that, I was like, I have to save that for the intro because I just know that, that's going to be a good bonding point. And so anyways, we'll let it take it away for a second here. Chris, tell us a little bit about you. How did you end up where you're at? And what was the start of your pest control journey? Why did you decide to become an entomologist?
Oh man, a lot of loaded questions, Marcus. I just want to say thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. So I am currently the Extension Associate of Structural Pest Management at NC State University here in Raleigh. And so what that translates to is I spend my days, most of my time, every day at least, getting to interface with and interact with the pest management industry, which I think legitimately is the best industry in the world. That's right. And so that's kind of where I am now. And I, my position at NC State covers all of the inverts of either in, on, or around the built environment, as well as rodents, commensal rodents. So once it gets outside of that realm into wildlife, that kind of shifts off to someone else. But so I'll handle everything from ticks to mosquitoes to stored product pests to fabric pests to bed bugs, cockroaches, ants, termites, the whole deal, all of it, and then those commensal rodents. And so kind of what led me here is actually a really interesting journey. So I'll go back a little further. So I'm a North Carolina native. Grew up near Boone, up in the mountains. And first generation college student, so never had gone to college, no one in my family had, and just kind of decided I'd strike out on my own. And I actually went to school for environmental sciences because I was convinced I wanted to do green energy and save the planet. And I my second and third year of college, I got plugged in with a mosquito lab on campus, and I spent my afternoons feeding mosquitoes blood to infect them with dog heartworm, which is a major issue here in North Carolina and other states as well.
Right.
And then I would let them kind of incubate the worms, and then I'd rip their heads off one by one. So that was kind of my first experience of killing a bug, was this really intimate, beheading mosquitoes. And so I did that for about 2.5 years, and actually really just loved the field of entomology. That was kind of my intro into the field of these critters called bugs. And so I finished in undergrad, and like a lot of people, I couldn't find a job. And so I ended up actually finding a local pest control company in Raleigh who were hiring. They were looking for someone to come in and start their mosquito control program. They didn't really have a strong program at that point, and they needed someone to come in and lead it. And so I jumped on board and joined that company here in Raleigh and worked there for 2 years as an RT. And I say RT, that's a North Carolina term. So in North Carolina, we go registered technician, and then registered technician is certified applicator, and then license holder. And so you have to take a certain number of exams and things to get kind of up those ranks. But RT is where you come in. At that time, you could actually join 16 years old and start as an RT.
Right.
We actually just changed the laws in North Carolina this year, and you have to be 18 now. But so I worked with him for 2 years, and then actually my kind of my next experience, which was wild and really relates to culture, I ended up going back to graduate school, and I started actually my graduate school experience at Duke. And
My
while I
grandmother
was,
worked
that's
there.
right. Yeah, Duke's a great school. I went. Sorry, I have a dog who's barking in the background a little. I went to every school except UNC Chapel Hill and the Triangle, so I'm happy about that. But I went to Duke, and actually while I was at Duke, my entire program focused on malaria control in Southeast Asia. So I was focused on mosquito control, mosquito elimination, and that led into my PhD, which was looking at bed bugs and mosquitoes and the overlap in those communities. And so that has kind of just led me to where I am today. It's a long story. There's a lot more there I didn't get into, but a deep love for pests and a deep love for killing them when we need to.
So that's where the published article I must have read was had to do with long-lasting mosquito or insecticide-treated
Yeah.
nets and how that was contributing to pyrethrin resistance from the bed bugs, right? Is that what that was happening? So basically, the netting was preventing the mosquitoes, but the
Yeah.
bed bugs were able to travel through very easily. Is kind of what I was taking from the article.
Yeah.
And so they were tracking
Yeah, yeah.
pyrethrins and was making local populations really resistant to it, and so it was
Yeah.
kind of contributing. I did a little deep dive into it. I love reading published articles.
glad.
I love reading stuff about bed bugs and everything. So
Good.
that's really cool. So did to get that data, did you have to go to places? Was that all done like digitally,
Man,
remotely,
yeah.
or how did you actually find out and collect? Because it's not like a daily thing that people use the mosquito nets here in the States.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's this really unique setting, right, where malaria is bad. Mosquitoes kill over 800,000 people a year. Still today, that's how many people die, right? And a lot of that still comes from malaria.
Yeah.
And we've used for decades now most of them single ingredient pyrethroid formulation bed nets that people will sleep under every night, just to prevent mosquitoes from biting them, to reduce that incidence, that occurrence rate of malaria.
Right.
And what we put forward was this idea, a really simple idea, but like, hey, if people are sleeping under these nets, and to sleep under them, you have to tuck them under the bed. Bed bugs are everywhere, man. If you're tucking these things underneath your mattress, you're probably tucking them where bed bugs are. And so we had actually planned to go to Africa, and then COVID-19 kind of derailed travel globally, and it ultimately never happened. But what we ended up doing was taking those bed nets. We partnered with someone at the CDC, and we have a company called Vestergaard who produces a lot of nets. They're one of many companies who do. We were able to connect with them, and they provided us with nets that we used in the lab to test on bedbug strains that we had collected. And so some of the strains, one of them was the Harlan strain, which is kind of the ubiquitous insecticide susceptible strain collected by Harold Harlan, I think back in the 70s. Maybe 60s. It was post DDT, but pre a lot of the modern stuff we use. And then we also used a really highly kind of multi-resistant strain bedbug as well. And it was concerning, man. It was concerning. That there was a few papers there, but really the takeaway was that these bed bugs they didn't even care that this insecticide treated fabric was there, man.
Yeah.
They would go through it no problem to feed, and then go through it again to go to their aggregation. And very few of them died. And it's kind of the perfect storm for resistance. And so, it was a fun 4 years.
No, I absolutely love, this kind of combination thinking, that, hey, we've got a problem here,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of things are, for the sake of science, probably, right? You have to eliminate variables. You have to kind of just narrow down to the single problem.
Yeah.
But that, I thought, when I read the headline to that, I was like, oh, I gotta click on this thing and dive in it a little bit, because, it was mentioning two different issues, two different separate problems, and kind of how they're juggling back and forth between the two. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
man. Yeah. I mean, hey, the pest management landscape is interconnected, right? You deal with it every day, I'm sure.
So I was going
problem
to
A
actually
might lead to
ask
problem
how,
B.
how are you interacting with the pest control community? You were saying that a big part of your job is you interact with us on a kind of a daily basis. Are you is the university deploying you out to case studies, or are businesses contacting you for information, or is it really just kind of all legislative and rule writing, or what like how are you interacting with the actual operators out in the field?
It's a great question. So I'll start with the inside and then I'll work out. So
Okay.
in my day to day on campus, it looks like being accessible. So I have phone calls probably 3 or 4 days a week, where companies reach out to me either, hey, we found this weird looking thing, we're not sure what it is. Hey, we're in this really weird situation. Do you have any advice on how we can manage it? Hey, we have a pissed off homeowner that thinks we did something wrong. Can you tell him we did our job right? Right. And so there's kind of this interaction I have from the office chair first. That bleeds into the lab where we actually have several ongoing projects that are of funding, either are funded by National Pest Management Association, are funded by the North Carolina Pest Management Association, or projects that come from conversations with industry in and around North Carolina and issues that they're dealing with and how we can help address them. So that's kind of on the campus side. Now, the majority of my time, actually, I love to spend off campus. So I regularly go on ride-alongs with companies. So I try to dedicate 2 to 3 days a month to just be in the field full day with a company.
Wow.
In the car with a tech, a certified applicator, or the owner, going to different houses, seeing what they do. Sometimes it's challenges. Sometimes it's houses that they've gone to for callbacks or an issue that they just can't get under control. And sometimes it's a new person. I've been stuck with new people before that they're like, hey, we want the PhD to come out and whip the new person into shape and make sure they're doing their job right. So I kind of have this regular interface with them from the side of my program at NC State. Now, the other big thing we do at NC State, which is unique, Texas A&M, because you're in Texas, right? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas A&M has. They had Ed Vargo. I don't know if you knew Dr. Ed Vargo, but he recently retired. He's a big fire ant guy, big wig there, and the urban program at NC State's a little different. So we have kind of these research bigwigs who are working on projects. And then you have kind of the analogy that my advisor liked to use, and I agree with it, is like a stool. We have the legs of the stool, which are the researchers, and I do some research, but I'm really the seat of the stool. So I'm taking all of that information that they're producing, all of the things they're gaining from the lab, from other labs around the country, from Florida, from Virginia, from Tennessee, from California, and I'm trying to synthesize that to support the industry and convey it in little nuggets to the pest management industry. And so one of the ways we do that is we have a facility here called the Structural Pest Management Training and Research Facility.
Okay.
And in that facility, we teach a slate of courses to the pest management industry every quarter that cover, so we have what we call our core courses and our technical courses. Core courses are half-day courses where we cover basics of pest biology, behavior, ID, and management. And so we have things like the ant core, the cockroach core, the rodent core. We're actually about to launch a new one this in October, actually, called tick core, where we're covering ticks in a really in-depth way. And so that puts us face to face with pest management. I serve on boards with the North Carolina Pest Management Association. I have calls with the president and the other kind of executive members. I'm helping on committees. So any way that I can engage with industry, so like this right here. Thanks to Matt Fleming for pushing this thing along, right? Love Matt. He's a great guy. And so any way that I can engage with the industry and get outside of the lab, get outside of the ivory tower of academia to where I can actually see what's going on, then that's what I go for.
Well, I love that you're reaching out, that you're a part of things that are beyond just what's inside the lab experience. When I was thumbing through, I saw there was a Pokémon thing. Maybe you did a podcast recently, and you're
I did.
But I love that because you're tapping into what's in the zeitgeist. You're tapping into what's culturally relevant, what people can connect with, and what they see. People don't oftentimes study a bunch of bugs, but a ton of people interact with bugs on Pokemon, right? And so it's a great way to interact with the younger guys, and it's a great way to draw interest to the industry. And so I think that is kind of what our core mission kind of sort of here at LTK is, right? Is to participate on the cultural side while still being a positive promotion for the industry. Um, what was the Pokemon that you guys came up with for your pest Pokemon?
Yeah, it was funny. So I in that podcast they ended by asking me, what insect Pokemon do you want to see is missing? And I'm like, man, we don't have a bed bug. We have some cockroaches, there's ants, so we've hit two of the top three structural pests. Obviously there's also some termite looking things, but we don't have a bed bug. And so I just kind of put that out there. And then the actual design, I don't know who it was, but it was a listener. And a listener to the pod. And I gave this as a perfect example of extension from a university where we talk about our field and we talk about, in this case, structural pest management and how critical and cool of a career it is. And someone in the audience heard me say they needed bedbug Pokemon, and they made one. And they made one at a really in-depth level, and it was really cool, way better than anything I could do. And so I had the podcast creators reach out to them and just ask permission for me to post it on LinkedIn as an example of, hey, this is the impact we can have, where people are listening and they're making these connections and they're saying, wow, I didn't know bedbugs were a huge issue like this. Let me make a Pokemon about it, right? So yeah, it was really cool, really cool. I really, really, I love that. I grew up playing Pokemon, and so it's neat to see that, a conversation I had about my career in the field that I love could inspire someone to do that.
Well, we tend to use the word nerd around here pretty endearingly. We love our nerds. We tend to see or think that, if you're a bug nerd, right, then chances are you're probably into other nerdy hobbies, right?
That's right.
That's why we've hosted some cool stuff like, Warhammer 40K,
Yep.
we've done some video game tournaments, we've done stuff like that. So, what are some of your nerdy hobbies, and what are some things that you enjoy doing off the clock, and how can we invade it with LTK? How can we bring the
I
pest
love it.
world into it?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. So, in the minimal time I have, so my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old son, and well, almost three. He'll be three in a little under a month, and then we have our second son is due in January. So
Oh,
between
congratulations.
parenting and working, thanks,
Yes.
I actually find time for a few things. So I would say my number one is actually with my wife, and for a lot of people it's like a dream come true. So we love, love, love Borderlands. And
The
so
new one just dropped.
yeah, 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 yeah. So we've been playing it every night, and my wife was like, "Oh, we're gonna play it tonight," and I was like, "Babe, I can't. I've got a podcast." So, but yeah, we have played through we've almost 100%ed every single Borderlands game together, co-op, just couch co-op, split screen.
Holy
Uh,
cow.
the only one, yeah, the only one we haven't, apart from four, which we're just now playing, but is Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which we have a hard time jiving with. It's not the same as the previous ones, and it's a good game, but so Borderlands is one. I'm also big on I like simulation games, so things like
Yeah.
RimWorld is a big one that I like. I really like right now. I've been playing a game called Planet Zoo. It's just very zen. I get to build a zoo and have
Yeah.
animals, and
Passive gaming.
I
Not
like
everything has to be
yeah,
competitive,
exactly.
leaderboards and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, cozy
yeah.
games. Love a good cozy
That's
game.
right. That's right. And so for me, I like waking up early. So I usually get up about 5 o'clock, and I will have my cup of coffee, and I'll sit and just play my cozy game in low stress, open my day well. And then I also like D&D a lot. And so I'm fairly
Okay.
new to the D&D world. Um, I've been playing in a campaign for about 2 years, but that's my first campaign, and so that has been really, really fun. That's a cool kind of, play your character and get excited. But a long history of other things too. I used to play Pokemon cards. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I have played 40K tabletop. I was tier nids, as I think any good bug lover should be, right?
Yes. Yes. Team Nids right here. This guy.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, it's good, man. There's a lot of things that I enjoy doing in that free time that I have, which is not very much. And then I think probably my newest hobby that gets away from the nerdy side, but it is nerdy in its own right, is hunting. I've just recently kind of
Oh
started
yeah.
taking up hunting, and so this is my first season in North Carolina, going for deer and kind I'm also excited to see what kind of pests I see on them. I want to kill a deer and then see what ticks are on it.
Right, yeah. Or just, I mean, even the animals themselves, right? You're out there, there's all
That's right.
kinds of invasive species of everything, plants,
Oh yeah,
fish,
absolutely,
all kinds of stuff. So
absolutely.
I've never gotten a chance to do much hunting, but I would love to. And in the state of Texas, hogs are an invasive species, and there's more hogs in the state of Texas than there are collectively in all the other states combined. And so they
Really?
have bounties here that you can go and like any time of the year. There's no like hunting season or whatever, and you can turn in their ears for bounty. Now I don't know if that program is still exactly going. I wouldn't be surprised if it never got suspended because it's been a
Yeah,
huge issue.
that's
And
incredible.
even though I'm in the Houston area, it's just mostly all urbanized area. It's not that far until you're outside the city. And Texas
Yeah,
is known for its famously large ranches and
yeah.
big properties. And I had this one Girl Scout camp one time that had a pack of probably like 1,000 hogs come through, and they destroyed like 2,500 acres. I mean, it was crazy
Oh
the amount
my
of damage that they
goodness.
did, just rooting up everything. And and so there are companies that specialize in doing pest removal through hog hunting in a helicopter, right?
Really?
So it just goes to show you how wildly diverse this job can be. You can be in the ivory tower
Absolutely.
doing lab research, or you can be flying through a helicopter like you're Rambo with a fucking big gun, just da 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 da. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. I'm sure it's a little bit more sophisticated than that, but
I
um,
doubt it. It's Texas. I doubt it is.
that's right. Come on, big gun.
That's
Big
amazing.
field. What more do you need? So I would love to get into a little bit more of the hunting stuff. So that's really cool.
Yep.
So let's take a step back for a minute. There, you worked at a company, so or pest control company. So when you were there, you helped them develop their mosquito program. Was that like office side? Were you really helping to come up with that, like the SOPs and the stuff like that, or were you actually out in the field trying to, develop this division, whether that be selling customers, servicing the customers, or however?
Yeah, yeah. So they had all the SOPs and everything kind of in place. Some of them were modified while I was there, but for the most part, they needed someone to run it. They needed someone who was there for that. And so, my job for 2 years, I started as a mosquito guy, so I would do, what, 15 to 18 stops a day. And see, it's funny. I was the mosquito guy. I've always been big on PPE, right? And you see some of the people who just don't meet the PPE they should wear for some things, right? But I was the mosquito guy who was in full long sleeves, long pants, a Tyvek suit, nitrile gloves, kitchen gloves, goggles, and a cartridge respirator. And so
Oh,
I was the guy, and chemical resistant boots as well. And so I was the guy that looked like I was out,
it's like
fighting
you were out
some
fighting COVID
outbreak.
directly. He's just
That's right. That's right. So no one ever talked to me. No one would ever come talk to me, so I could do my job in peace. But so the first summer that I joined, I did that all summer. And as summer wound down and mosquito treatment slowed down, they stuck me on a P route. And they said, hey, we really want you to try some P phase stuff and a little bit of W phase inspections for termites. Um, See how you like it. And I
What do
loved it,
those terms
man. I
mean?
loved it.
What's
Oh,
P?
sorry. I guess that's fair. I'm speaking very North
Pest?
Carolinian. Sorry, yeah. So in North Carolina, the way that credits and your certified applicator credential and your license credential is structured in North Carolina is we have P phase, which is general pest,
Okay.
and W phase, which is wood destroying. So
Okay.
for example, if you're a company and you have your P phase license, you cannot do termite in
Right.
North Carolina. You can only do P phase stuff, which is bed bugs, cockroaches, ants, rodents. Those are all under P phase. Sorry for that.
No,
So,
no.
yeah, no,
I love the
I sometimes forget.
colloquialisms. The
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
industry. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The terms and
yeah,
kind of the word and languaging and cultural aspects of the
yeah,
treatments and stuff. So okay, so P phase, W phase. You were in a P
yep,
route, so you kind of did GHP. You were doing general household pests. You're running a
yep,
route
yep,
there. Okay.
yep. And I was doing some termite inspections, and I loved it. And I actually was really good at talking to the customers and helping educate them. And I was so good at it actually that they took me off of mosquito work the next year for the most part. And they said, no, 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 you're actually more valuable doing this general household pest. So we want you to do that. And so I ended up doing that for the second year, and I did that for about a year and a half in conjunction with the mosquito. And I picked up some mosquito stuff. I still did a little bit. Lost a lot of weight when I was doing that mosquito work, man. In the summer heat and humidity, you lose it. But it was great. It was a phenomenal experience, and I loved what I did, and loved talking with people. And that's kind of what led me back to graduate school. Was, I love teaching, I love learning, and I love sharing knowledge, and I really want to see what that looks like, kind of going this route of academia, but focused in pest management and health.
Well, people who tend to love to educate also love to be educated, right? And so
That's right. That's right.
What do you feel like? What was one thing that you helped to impart on that company that you brought, with your PhD? And what was one thing that you felt like you walked away with that they taught you? Maybe it was just kind of a real world practical thing, or kind of a just an experience based situation, or maybe even a real kernel of truth, or a valuable field tip maybe for technicians out there in the world who who could always use an extra tip.
That's good. Yeah. So I think the thing that I imparted first, I think, was the perspective in which they went into mosquito control. A lot of companies will sometimes just go in and do kind of the spray and pray method, and they just focus on adulticiding. They don't focus on kind of thinking about, well, where would the mosquitoes prefer to be, right? You got to think like a mosquito. And so I had some experience of that previously, and so I came into the company and brought in that way of thinking, and it has persisted to today. They're much more holistic in the way that they approach their mosquito control treatments, and so that has been great, because it's funny, my boss at that time now comes to my classes to get credits.
Oh, wow.
And so now we're on the opposite side of the coin here, where I'm teaching him and he's learning from me about all these different things, and it's phenomenal. Because I remember the first time he came in, and I was nervous, because I was like, man, this guy used to be my boss. I look up to him. I still do. And I taught the course, and he walked up to me afterwards, and he shook my hand. And he's a real older Southern guy, and he goes, Chris, you're where you're supposed to be. I'm glad you didn't stick with us. I'm glad you're doing this.
Oh yeah.
And that really, that really touched me. I was like, wow, okay, man, this guy still cares. And so he comes to my classes all the time. He comes to see me and sits in, and he loves it. And so I think, in that vein, I think the biggest thing I took away from my time with that company is the diligence required to just do well in your field, right? Like, when I entered into pest management, like, pest management will whip you into shape, man. And it's either gonna drive you away, or you're gonna be refined by the fire and become really sharp. It's like, it's one of those two things. And my advocacy is just lean in because it's good. Like, my 5 o'clock wake up time now is 100% because of pest management. It's like I had to be up early to get in the field for work when I was there, and that has persisted. And it has given me so much life and so much joy to, like, I get to start my day early, so that when my son wakes up, I'm not like just getting out of bed. I've already had my coffee, started my day, and I can engage with him and be a good father and an active dad. And so I think, yeah, just the diligence of life, man.
I really like that. And I think you're right. Detail orientation, and just, having a due diligence to do, not to get caught in repetitive action, keep that mind and eye for exactly what's going on. You were talking about not just focusing so much on the adulticide, right, but really kind of having a full comprehensive plan. And a lot of people point to Disney World as kind of the master class example, right, for really doing everything, right, managing rain control, managing runoff, managing stagnant water, open air spaces, I mean, all kinds of stuff, right, mosquito eating fish, all these kinds of these methods, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really awesome, and I hope that our industry continues to adopt more of a holistic mindset and the full view of things. I know that I'm privileged to service a lot of like taller towers and buildings that have LEED status, so it's kind of like a tax exemption.
That's great.
And we really try and bring that forward to their attention as well. The full holistic idea that they can treat. So, Let me ask you. So you've got a bit of a hand in the culture side. You've got a bit in the academic side. You've got a bit in the real world fielding side, right? So I would say you're a pretty well rounded person. You've probably seen a little bit of everything.
I
What?
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate you for for having a good, a deep and passionate background in what you do. And to
Yeah.
have a perspective from all sides of the aisles. What is one thing that pest control as a whole, the whole industry? Just give me a little, light critique here. What is something that we could be doing to bring into the industry? What is something that we could be incorporating, or, that we could be doing better as a whole?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah, I was out at a company in North Carolina on Friday, and uh, someone asked me someone asked me a related question. We were talking about rodenticide use and rodents and rodent management, and he said to me, Dr. Chris, if what you're telling me is right, why have I learned it the other way so long? And I said my answer kind of poorly, and so I'll reword it here to make sure I say it well. I think the thing we need to do in pest management is we have to bring in flexibility. And I think I see that time and time again at least in North Carolina, and I'm sure it's common across the country, where companies that have been around for a long time, that have these men and women who have been there for the majority of their life and are set in a way of doing pest management. And they're set in a way of doing pest management that works. And that's the hard part about it, right? It works. But as we go through science, and part of this is the issue with the ivory tower and why I spend so much time outside of it, because we don't convey it enough. But when we go through science and we find ways that work better, it's hard to get uptake on those
Okay.
because it's not the way they've always known. And so I think the pest management industry can sometimes be set in its ways. And I think it's good for us to be challenged in some of those ways and to be flexible. And actually, what I see in my job is that companies that are more flexible, that are more willing to say, wow, so we'll use the rodenticide example, right? So there are now non-toxic baits that are out there that are used for tracking, that you
Yeah.
can use for monitoring, as opposed to just putting out a toxic bait
Like
immediately,
D-Tex
right?
block, right? The UV stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great example. And those products are oftentimes rejected by older companies. They're like, why would I do that when I can just put out a rodenticide? But the research shows that we actually are overusing rodenticide in some areas, that it's a great tool, and that if used responsibly and correctly, it's an essential part of your tool belt and you need it, right? But if we're not using it responsibly, we could be like California and lose it,
Right. It's the first thing to
right?
get targeted and taken away.
Exactly. And so I struggle with companies sometimes because they just don't have that flexibility. But what I'm seeing is as I'm engaging with them more and kind of bringing the olive branch and saying, hey, I'm not trying to tell you you're doing it bad. All I'm trying to say is there's a better way. And oftentimes what I find actually that works, and this will probably resonate with you too, is you just talk about money,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
An individual D-Tex block is cheaper than an individual bait block that has rodenticide in it.
Right.
Why would you put out a bait block with rodenticide if there's no mouse activity? Right? And then they start thinking, oh, well, if I save money, that makes sense. And it's like, well, there's other reasons you should do it. But if I have to talk to you about saving money, let's do that too. So
Right.
I
Right.
think we just need some more flexibility in industry. And I think it comes from just a lack of communication around it, right?
It's interesting you talk about always having to boil things back down to the economics. When I interviewed Morgan Manderfield, she talked about
Yeah,
how
she's
she
great.
had a huge passion for bugs, but not really pest management originally.
Yeah,
But there was no money in the other departments, right? There were no other money in the other aspects of it. Not a lot of
yeah,
research grants to
yeah,
go out and thumb around in the Amazon rainforest, right? So,
yeah.
out of necessity, this is kind of where it all boils down. And so, I can understand that definitely when it comes to the older operators who, like you said, it's tried and true. It's been working for them for a long time. It's been profitable for them for a long time. People get very hesitant about changing that formula. So I guess the question is, with I want to say the number was like 60 million. It was a huge number. It was like 40 to 60 million businesses are owned by boomer generation folks
Yeah,
that have no succession plan, right? No, there's
yeah,
nobody who's going to inherit the business. There's no baton to
yeah,
pass off to. Nobody's interested in running it, right? But that I feel like that also offers us a very unique opportunity, especially now, and especially like in spaces like LTK, where if we can get younger people to first off understand it's a career type job that you can stick around for
That's
years
right.
and decades to come, right? This is not
That's right.
it doesn't just have to be your college stepping stone job, right? It can be
That's
a
right.
real career, but also that due to the nature of science and stuff, like in just technology, so much innovation happens so rapidly, right? And
Yeah.
so you know I guess what I'm saying is there a more effective way, or is podcast, right? Is this our most effective way to try and get the younger generation to pick up that baton and to adopt the new modern pest control methodologies, maybe because they're not beholden to the formula, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, where do you think we could be doing a better job as far as trying to reach out to these younger folks? And although the communication is as good as we can get for the older folks, is there something that we could do to help to turn their mind as well? Is it
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
dollars and cents that makes sense for them, or you know, um, is a part of that secession plan a part of and that modernizing and understanding that, hey, with time changes comes new
Yeah.
owners, new operations, new methodologies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great stuff. Yeah. Great questions. I think, yeah, I could start with the older folks. I think the older folks, I think there's a deep value to face-to-face communication. And especially in a generation at a time when a lot of things have gone digital. I think digital is incredible, but I think a lot of them kind of reject it, and they
Yep.
prefer the face-to-face.
Yep.
Sometimes it's as simple. I hate to harp on rodenticide, but it's just the one that I'm thinking of right now because we were talking
Sure.
about it. But we teach a rodent class, and I had I think we had 15 or so people in the classroom, and about 6 or 7 of them were really older gentlemen who had been in the industry for a long time. And in our rodenticide classes, I always ask the question, hey, how many of you wear gloves every time you touch a rodenticide bait block? And without fail, the older generation never raises their hand. And so in that classroom of 15, those 6 older guys didn't raise their hand, right?
Yeah.
But I got to have then a one-on-one conversation or a 6-on-1 conversation with them of, hey, why don't you? Have you noticed any issues with your health or that you could potentially think you could be contributing to this, right? So it's a little late for some of those conversations, but they realized, wow, no one's ever like talked to me about this from this way. I've read regulation and I don't like to be told what to do. But
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
someone looks at me and says, hey man, I just care that you're healthy, right? I'm not telling you this to kind of harsh your mood or make you feel like you're doing anything wrong.
Give
But at
give your
the end of the
business
day,
another thing to spend money on.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But it's like, no, when I connect with you on the personal level and I say, actually, it's because I want you to be healthy. And even though you're 60 and still doing this, I want you to live to do this till you're 75, if that's what you want. Right. Then you kind of break through some of those walls. So I think there's the personal thing that in the face thing. I think it's also going out and being in the field, getting that street cred. And the reality is coming from academia, a lot of the people in academia and government who are like, you should do these things have never done pest management.
I've
They
never
don't
done it
know.
before. Right. Right.
Never done it, right? And so I get this kind of feather in my cap with companies because I'm like, oh yeah, I ran a route for 2 years, 2.5 years. Like, yeah, and I'm out in the field now. So when I go out with companies, they're like, oh, okay, just wait here. I'm going to go under the crawl space. I'll be right back. And I'm like, hell no, I'm coming under the crawl space with you. What are you talking about? Right? And I get under and crawl with them. And they're like, you have a PhD and you're in a crawl space? And I'm like, of course. This doesn't make me special, bro. We're just out here doing pest management, right? I just went this route, you went this route, and now we're merging again. So I think it's that commitment to being in the field, that commitment to connecting with people, and that face to face for that older generation, especially for the younger generation. I think it is some of these things. I think it is things like podcasts, posts online, advertisement, right? I think the younger generation is looking for, in a lot of ways, I think they're looking for purpose and I think they're
Yeah.
looking for identity.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and what I have seen work really well is exactly what you're saying, Marcus, this idea that this is a career and it's not only a career, it's a really good career. Like
Yes.
it's lucrative, it's fun, it's challenging, right?
Yes.
There are hard days, whether it be physically difficult or mentally difficult because you're trying to figure out a complex issue, right? And it's incredibly rewarding. I mean, you're on the front lines keeping people healthy,
Yeah.
right? It's awesome. And so what I was saying was we at NC State we have something called the Agricultural Institute, and so it is kind of a unique program for a university. It's a 2-year degree program where students come in primarily from ag backgrounds, first generation college students. They are looking to get a degree in agribusiness, agricultural management, agricultural sciences, whatever. But I'm one of the instructors who teach entomology courses. And they love in that program to offer micro credentials or credentials that they can carry through into professional careers.
Yes.
And so what we've started doing, exactly, it's great. And so we've reworked it now where starting next year, they're going to come through the urban entomology course and they're going to finish that course in the spring as a registered technician in the state of North Carolina. And then
That's
my goal
awesome.
is to yeah, and my goal is to plug those students in to internships over the summer in pest management companies because it's an incredible career. And what's going to happen is they're going to make a ton of money.
Yep.
They're going to love it because it's hands-on.
Yep.
They're going to love being outside. And my belief is that they're going to want to career. And so it's that kind of engagement where we really, my desire is to make it the barrier to entry as low as possible. Look, you sit through my course, you're gonna take the tests, you're gonna get an A or B, C, whatever, but you're also gonna get this credential, and you
Yep.
can go make real money with this credential. Not
That's
just a grade.
probably the
You're gonna
coolest
make
thing
real
I've
money.
heard coming out of academia in a while. I'll be honest. I feel, and then maybe this just may be a personal hot take,
I'm honored.
but so okay, so there's this huge disconnect happening in the job market right now, right? People are
Yeah,
graduating
yeah,
out of high school and college. They have little to no job prospects, right? They're putting in, you hear, hundreds, even thousands of resumes and applications,
mhm,
and nobody's hiring, or they can't find a position, or they've
yeah,
taken on 100, 200,000 plus dollars worth of debt, and then they get out and they're struggling to find a $40,000 a year job. And
yeah.
as someone who's been out in the field for the last 10 years, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, I'm seeing this massive disconnect, because here's this whole generation of people, like you said, who feels lost, no
Yeah.
identity, no sense of satisfying career, right? Doesn't want to be chained to a cubicle for the rest of their life, or work for some giant
Yeah.
corporation that, views them as a number. A lot of people really are reporting like impact is something that they really want, right, in their
Mhm.
career job. And then on the other hand, I look at pest management positions, and they're abundant. Like every company I know is
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
if we could just get our hands on more people, like more people, like
Yes.
we're
Yes.
desperately in. And I just think to myself, like, and there's not a huge barrier to entry. Most people will take you if you have a driver's license,
Yeah. That's
and
right.
a high school diploma, and so you don't have to have a GED. So you don't have to have these crazy
Yeah.
high, barred in order to be able to make a living wage. But you hear the
Mhm.
masses clamoring, I can't find a way to make a living wage. And I feel like part of that is because there's so many cool hidden jobs that nobody's talking about. Nobody's broadcasting.
Oh yeah.
Nobody is saying, hey, come do this thing. And it gets stigmatized as like the dirty or the gross
It
job or
does. It
whatever. And
does. It does.
it's like, that's, I have more days walking around in, $1 million homes, or on the lake, or million
Hmm.
dollar high rise tower, or, $1 billion high rise
Yeah.
towers, or, college campuses. I mean, places that are nice, they're aesthetic, they're cleanly.
Yeah.
You spend more days in those environments than you do, knee deep in rat poop. Right now, I've had plenty of
Absolutely.
days, doing the dirty and nasty stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it
Yeah.
just, there's this kind of misconception that it's an unsatisfying job, or that people will look down on you. But I think you're 100% correct in the idea that you get out there and you make an impact. You make someone's day better.
Yeah.
Solve a food health issue. You help to
Yeah.
solve a public health issue. Whatever it may be, whether it's small. And I've talked about previously on other podcasts this idea of giving people their sanctuary back. Right, that's how we felt in my family when we had a pest infestation of fleas and bed bugs at two different times, and when people came and treated our home,
Man. Yeah.
the mental decline that had happened in our home, the tension, the anger,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
inability to sleep, these things had played havoc on our mental health. and
Oh yeah.
someone came in with a spray can and they restored that, right, and they gave us
Yeah.
our sanctuary back. And so whether it's small scale impact or whether it's solving a huge rodent outbreak at a major food handling facility that that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are going to consume food from that location, right? The impact is real, it's there, it's measurable,
Yeah.
and it can be a puzzle, an investigation. It's not just staring at four walls every single day or stuck or feeling chained to a desk. And so I don't know. I
Absolutely.
love that you said that you guys do that, and if you can tug on the ears of more people who are in those academic spaces or running those
Yeah.
programs, it's like, get these guys credentialed, get them get them
Yeah.
a foot in the door of making money, because
Yep.
kind of what you were
Yep.
saying earlier, everything boils down to dollars and cents.
It does.
And
It
if
does.
someone's 20 years old and they're able to make a real living wage, afford an apartment or a home, right, and that gives
Yeah.
them freedom, a little bit of liberty, then
Hmm.
I think that's how you hook people. I think that's how you get people in the industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, 10 times kudos for that. And that is such a
Appreciate
cool.
it.
I haven't heard anything like that, but I love that. I absolutely love that.
Thanks. Yeah, we're amped up about it, man. We haven't. So it actually hasn't. So it's the wheel is turning, and in academia the wheel turns slowly, and so the goal is that it would start next year, this program officially. But I just connected a guy with a company as an intern yesterday. So a company caught wind that I shared, hey, we're interested in doing this. We're looking for companies who want to partner with us to bring students in that we train that have come in with a background in entomology. They have at least one semester, if not 2 semesters of entomology, that they have learned about insects, especially if they've taken the urban pest course. They've learned about pests, they've learned to ID them, they've learned about management. They're coming in with information that we want to push forward. And I had a company reach out to me and they said, hey, I know you haven't even started this yet, but we actually need someone right now. Do you know of anyone?
That's
So I
how
said, you know
bad
what?
people need
Yeah,
workers. They
yeah. And
really
so,
need it.
so I just sent out an email to my students and said, hey, is anyone interested? And I had someone respond almost immediately, hey, yeah, I am. And so I've connected him now, and my hope is that it goes well for him, right? And if we can show, and this is the hard part with academia, to get the university fully on board, they love the credential, they love it, but what we really need is to show that ROI, that return on investment, that we are having students leave the program making money and employed. And when
Right.
we do, which we will, and I know we will, when we do, my plan is to even take it a step further and start a new course where they would leave with their certified applicator credential for North Carolina. So now we've
Yes.
taken them to a higher level of training and skill, and they're 2 steps out of 3 towards being a license holder.
Right.
And so we've really made this, and this is all without any extra stress. It's just they're in school anyway, and we're just
Right.
going to attack it on, right? And so now, not only are we giving them an opportunity to make more money as a certified applicator, we are giving companies highly trained people who we are confident and are going to do the job well, but we're also raising the bar for industry.
Yes.
We are sending in a streamline of people who are trained, educated, and knowledgeable, and that I can put a stamp on and say,
Right.
I trust this person to come to your company and they know what they're going to be doing. So we have a plan. We have to see if it fleshes out the way that we envision it to, but I'm really excited for it.
I love that you even took it to the next step, because to me that pushes the entrepreneurial line, right? That's what made America
Yeah,
such a
absolutely.
great country. Anybody and everybody can own a company, start a,
That's right.
and create their own wealth journey. And so to have
That's
people
right.
that much closer to being able to, come right out of college and have the credentials necessary, and even the field
Yeah.
experience if they're doing these summer internships, right? That they're
Yeah.
not just green thumbs and they're not just unproven, works on paper
Yep.
but doesn't work in the field, right? That
That's right.
sounds incredible. And maybe it's a little premature to say, but if LTK can help out with that, and to because part of
Okay.
what we want to do is
Yeah.
bring the video game competitions and the fun stuff and the cultural
Yeah.
stuff, and we want to bring that to the high schools and the college and help to
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
that pipeline of students who are interested in the career. And if we can say, hey,
Yeah.
check out this this thing, right, where there's 20, 30 universities all over the nation who not only do they have courses, but you can come out with your credentials, right?
Mhm.
I love that, especially for the students who are already
Okay.
enrolled in college. A lot of them are going to be
Yeah.
switching majors or switching, and again, many of them have on their mind, what am I going to do? Where am I going to
Yeah.
work? Right? And so, man, yeah. See, look, even got comments in the chat here saying, "I wish like something
I
like
saw
that was
that.
around when I was starting in school." That
Yeah.
is incredible, and I think that right there might just be the super gold nugget for the night, right? And if I
I'm
get
honored,
the
man. I
privilege of
appreciate it.
talking to more academic folks, I'm going to try and stress that as much as possible to incorporate those credentials into the programs themselves because I really believe in this industry. I really believe in the
Yeah.
youth to be able to come in and grab this thing by the reins and keep it running.
Yeah.
And so, I think a lot of people have identified the kind of cultural issues, the issues with, employment and so many of these bigger macro problems that are around us. And instead of just, reading headlines or complaining about it, to have people who are creating organizations, creating institutions, creating programs that are actually addressing that stuff, that's incredible to me. And if, like I said, if there's any way that I can, especially as y'all get that flushed out, if I can help
Yeah.
to funnel those people and get people interested in those programs, and it could also come from the other way around, right? It could also be
Yeah.
people who are technicians, maybe they've been a tech for one,
Yeah.
5, 6 years, and they want to go back to college, right?
Yeah.
And they hear that and
Absolutely.
they go, "Oh, I've always wanted my CA. I've
Yeah.
been just a basic tech for 2, 3, 5 years. I want to go back to college, but I also want
Yeah.
I'm split between do I want to keep pushing my career or do I want this is a great answer. This is a great answer where you get
Yeah.
both. And I think what you said, raising that bar, right? Raising that
Yeah.
level that an industry has. And
Absolutely.
I think that's how you take regular technicians and you motivate them, you encourage them, you
Mhm.
educate them, and you level up their game. To take a video
Yeah.
game term, you level up their
Absolutely.
game. And
That's right.
so
That's right.
that's super, super cool, man. Thank you for sharing
Man,
that.
I'm of course I'm thrilled to hear, other people from industry who see the vision behind it and who catch the vision. They're like, actually, we need this.
We need
Um,
that.
but it's always encouraging from, my side. I get time with industry, but I'm not in the industry every day. And so it's encouraging to me when we come forward with ideas or tools. We have some tools we market at our training facility with course ideas. We come up with ideas of things based on what I see in my intermittent times in the field and hearing from you guys that no, that is what we need.
Gotcha.
You're catching it. Yes, that's
Yes.
really encouraging to me. So I appreciate that.
Yes. No, I hear a lot of cool things that come from the academia stuff, the studies, and everything like that. But that sounds like one of the first real world solutions I've heard as far as addressing the
That's awesome.
employment issue,
Yeah.
to address the younger generation who are struggling to find
Yeah.
jobs. And so
Yeah.
that is super freaking cool. I don't want to keep repeating on that because my
No.
mind's just like so blown. I could just sit there and repeat that line like 50 more times. If you're listening, folks, like this is the important part.
Yeah.
So okay, let's let's wind back out a little bit into some
Yeah.
of the culture space stuff.
Okay.
You said you're a video gamer. You video game with the wife that you guys 100% in several video games. That's actually very relatable for me. Me and my wife met on a video game. We
That's
met
awesome.
in a Discord, and now we have a daughter and everything, right? So we
That's
married,
cool.
and so
Yeah.
if you were to be talking to the traditional people in our industry and something like LTK comes up, right? How do you explain to the older guys or the older folks or the people who are still in power, the people who really still have, the top positions in our industry? What would you say to them about these online spaces and video game culture and the kind of positive things? How would you try and convey that to them so they actually understood the gravitas behind it?
Oh, yeah. That's
Because
a good
that's my
question.
challenge, like every day. I'm like constantly trying to shout
Yeah.
this from the mountaintop, and it's, so what do we
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. My immediate thinking is kind of likening it to a bar, right? It is, our generation on a Friday night most of the time doesn't just go out and drink, especially like doesn't just go out to like go to party or whatever. Especially if you're like you work long days, right?
Yes.
And you cherish the time to sleep. And so what we miss is community. And so
Yeah.
we live in a world now where community looks very different. And one of the ways that people used to foster community, like going to, local town events and bars and getting to know the community there, it's not the same anymore. Not as many people do that, especially not people who work like we do, right? And so instead, we look for opportunities for that community, and the virtual space is an incredible opportunity. And what's beautiful about the virtual space too, and it perfectly mimics what happens in person, is in the middle of having fun and in the middle of playing a video game, you inevitably talk about work.
Yes.
And you inevitably do. And it's going to be the thing that really matters is that day where you say, man, I was dealing with this such and such pest, and dude, I couldn't figure it out. There was this thing, and I think I fixed it. And then someone's going to go, oh my God, I dealt with that last year. This is what you need to do. Have you thought about doing this?
Have you pulled
Right?
apart
And
the
this is
ice
just one of the
maker? And you're like, no, I've
exactly.
never done that.
Exactly. And so this is where it just pulls it together. Where I think in the midst of having fun and community, within isolation, we really languish and we suffer. But when we have that community, when we have that back and forth, that shared experience, the the comfort to be vulnerable and say in a service industry where the homeowner expects you to always be the expert, for you
Yes.
to be able to say, dude, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I fixed it. It's important because that's when we
Yeah.
actually are willing and able to learn. We can
Yes.
say, okay, I don't, I think I did it. I did it to the best of my ability, but does anyone have any ideas? And that's when you can get those ideas. So I think it just lets guard down, man. There's so much value in those virtual spaces. And to some people, even more so, right? To some people, it's like the thought of having that conversation in person is overwhelming. And they're like, I don't know that I can do that. I would prefer not to see anyone's face and they just hear my voice. They don't
Yeah.
know what I look like, right? And so it gives a lot more opportunity. And I think some of the older generation will say that that's a bad thing, that they just doesn't make any sense to me, and that's fine. It's not for everyone, but I think
Well, it may not be for them. It's for the next generation,
exactly,
right?
exactly, it's a wave,
It's a
and the
wave,
thing is, their resistance isn't going to stop it, and I
right?
think they need to embrace it because they're missing out, right? And so what I see is these companies that, at least in North Carolina, in my area, and the companies I've worked with, I see the companies that are really succeeding are the ones that are embracing that change,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Those are the companies that are expanding, that are growing, right? And it's awesome. And I try to encourage it. I try to encourage it where I can. And every company's different, and every company model is slightly different. But it's yeah, they have to get with it. They have to get with it, or they're going to get left behind.
I think sometimes the downside behind the digital stuff is that aside from a readout of the numbers or the metrics, it's actually very hard to visualize and understand the amount of engagement, right? When you're in a room and you're in a conference and you've got 80 people in chairs in front of you, listen, it's very easy to say we had 80 people show up, right? But if you
Yeah,
have, video game community with 80 people, it's big, but it's not, it's in the background, it's invisible, it's hard to know exactly what does that
yeah, yeah,
mean, what does that
yeah,
translate to. And I made a post the other day on LinkedIn kind of addressing this, that are you a part of the culture or are you missing out? Right, that
yeah,
Helldivers 2 dropped a new video game update, right? New
yeah,
War Bond, and that night they had over 500,000 people were playing that one game, right?
yeah,
And to try and visualize that, I tried to understand, like, how do I grapple this visually? I looked up
yeah,
what are the biggest stadiums in America, right? And
yeah.
one of the largest ones was Michigan,
Okay.
football stadium, right? And it holds about 100,000 people. And if you look at the pictures, it's just a sea of people. I mean, it's just this massive. It's taken from like a helicopter, like a up high view,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just, I mean, it's
yeah,
just a sea of people. And then my mind tried to
yeah,
comprehend. There were 5 times that. There's like 5 stadiums just sitting next to one another,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
All playing just one game of
yeah.
thousands of titles, thousands of popular games, right?
Yeah.
And so as much as we try and get the word out about cool platforms like LTK and other spaces, I think that's kind of like one of those hurdles is to get, like you said, this ROI, this these people who want to do things but they're not sure if if the engagement is high enough, if they're actually going to get a return on that, and to try and really conceptualize that, like, the scalability, the scale of the internet online space is so large.
Absolutely.
Your brain just reads it as a readout of numbers, you know what I mean? But to actually visualize it is really, this, I think, is just kind of the key part there, right? So, I love that you're an advocate for what we're doing. I love that you're an advocate for the the companies who are willing to adopt, the newer things that are happening out there. We are boiling down to almost an hour now. So we're at 58 minutes. So, in the last bit, right, I do want to just kind of ask you a couple of little quick questions, right? Who would you recommend coming on this podcast, or someone, a mentor, a friend, or someone that you would love for me to talk to? I'm on my pursuit of knowledge and networking, and so thankful to Matt, who teed you up and recommended you as a guest. I think this has been an awesome conversation. So who would you have?
I'm honored. There's a few options. So I definitely think my recommendations would probably be more in the realm of academia, because I think there are some really phenomenal academics out there. The one that I think comes to the top of mind, and she's the powerhouse, and I have no idea if she'd do it. I hope she would. She loves stuff like this, I think. But Dr. Faith Oy out of University of Florida, she leads the type of extension program that I'm aiming to build in North Carolina, that we can achieve there. I mean, she's incredible at what she does. She's internationally renowned for her impact and connection to pest management, and so Faith Oy is one for sure. If she's unavailable, she's very busy all the time. Two other ones I would recommend are actually two other professors who are in similar positions to myself, but in different states. Closer to you, actually. So Dr. Santos Portugal in Mississippi. He's the Mississippi State University Extension entomologist for urban entomology. Phenomenal guy. Fun to talk to. He's like us. He worked for ABC in Texas for many years.
They're a competitor of ours. We know them very well.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
No, we love ABC. Oh, Santos is the best. That's what Vulcan Wrath is saying.
Yeah, Santos is awesome. So highly recommend Santos for this. He's a good friend and would be phenomenal on here. And then another one is Dr. Aaron Ashbrook, and he's at LSU in Louisiana. And again, he's an extension entomologist. He doesn't have much background in pest management in terms of, he wasn't a tech to my knowledge, but phenomenal guys. So those would be three I would give you.
Perfect. Hey, that's a good 3 solid recommendations.
And I'm more than happy to make introductions if you'd like, and see if we can get it to swing in your favor to get them on, or get someone
Please
on.
do. Yes. Yeah. Let them know this was a good experience, and try and encourage them to come talk. I would love to pick their brains. Last question for the night. I'm going to Pest World soon. Are you going to Pest World?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so this is my first one. This is my very first one. I've never been before.
Really?
I'm a technician. Man. Most companies
Yeah.
don't send technicians as kind of like a managers, owners, maybe salespeople thing. But what is one bit of advice that you give me? Since I've only got 1 week there, I've got to maximize my time the best I can. What's your one bit of advice?
2.
Oh, I get double dose. Okay, give me 2.
So I personally, I in academia, I go to a lot of conferences. I think, and a lot of academics would be offended that I say this, because academics are academic conferences are the best. I actually think Pest World is the best conference in the world. I love Pest World, and if I was only able to go to one conference every year, it would be Pest World every year. I love Pest World. The 2 pieces of advice: one, I would look at the schedule now.
Yes.
And I would pick your talks now. Because it's tight, and if you wait till you get there, you're going to miss something that you really wanted to see. So definitely do some legwork beforehand. The app is really helpful for it as well. But look at the talks. There's a lot of great talks. I'm giving a talk there on bed bugs. There's a lot of other really good talks as well. So take a look. It's on last day, I think. But and my second piece of advice, is get ready for the exhibit hall. I mean, it is, I can't even describe it. I mean, it's incredible. It's just a mind-boggling experience when you get into this exhibit hall and you have companies from across the world who are there showing you their software, showing you their products, showing you their tools that you can use, showing you their contraptions, their chemical. It is, when I say get ready, I mean, as a pest management professional who's committed, that's right, who's committed to learning, to knowledge, and to expanding what you do, there are tools there that you probably didn't even know existed. Every year I go, I'm like, I had no idea someone made something like that, right? And so it's incredible. So the exhibit hall is awesome, because you're going to be able to connect with representatives, with companies that produce products, so companies like Syngenta, MGK, BASF, InView, these big companies, and also with small companies that are marketing their product, that are new, that are trying to earn your precious dollars. And so you might find a piece of technology or a tool that you're like, wow, I really think this would change the way we do things. So just keep an eye out for those things, man. The exhibit hall's awesome, and
I'm really hoping I run into the little grenade on the end of the extension. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's like a little puff duster that you push up on like like the eaves and stuff, and it's kind of like like a bellows duster, or not a bellows, but like like one of the grenades.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm
cool.
very much looking forward to that, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you there in person. I can't wait to give you a big handshake, to watch your class and learn from you. I really appreciate you spending your time with us this evening. For folks who are listening, don't forget to check out the merch store. We just recently revamped that, so if some of those listings you might have seen disappear, they've come back. So if you like the logo, you like the brand, you like what we're doing, try to do something to support us, guys. I'm coming out of pocket myself personally to go to Pest World, so this is a big deal for me, and we're really excited for the industry and really excited to be a part of everything. So, hey, Chris, you have a blessed evening. Get back to your kids. Hopefully they're asleep. I think mine might be. So, but enjoy your good work day tomorrow, and I'll see you around, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Be blessed, guys, and looking forward to seeing you there, Marcus. Looking forward to it. All right.
Thanks for tuning into the License to Kill podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful, informative, and engaging. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more listeners like you. Have a question or a topic that you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Connect with us through our Facebook, YouTube, and most importantly, our Discord. Until next time, this is your host, Marcus, reminding you to stay sharp, stay legendary, stay connected.